And we're live to review an episode of Homicide, and Jeff will tell us the name.
This was Season 4, Episode 20, titled A Map of the Heart, which originally aired April 26, 1996 on NBC. And it was the teleplay by Michael Whaley, story by Michael Whaley and James Yoshimura. I'm not sure off the top of my head if Whaley wrote any other episodes of Homicide. This one definitely was a bit different than the typical Homicide, but directed by Clark Johnson, the first of who may know plays Detective Meldrick Lewis on the show, who coincidentally was not in this episode.
Coincidentally.
Yeah, coincidentally. Though he is mentioned because when they first bring up the lunch bandit, Bayliss said he suspected Lewis because Lewis always has something in his mouth. So anyway, to recap, Pembleton and Bayliss arrive at an indoor swimming pool where they find a 71-year-old man, Edward Clifford, floating dead. Clifford is an extremely wealthy divorce attorney and an avid swimmer. Emmy Shiner tells the detectives that Clifford has the muscle tone of a man half his age. Back at the precinct, Munch brings in his high-end VCR for Howard to use. Munch says he got a deal on the VCR from Kellerman. Howard is suspicious. Meanwhile, Kellerman grills Pembleton and Bayliss after his lunch goes missing yet again. Kellerman believes this is some kind of initiation. The others tell Kellerman he is just another victim of the lunch bandit. Kellerman is upset because his lunch has been stolen 3 times in under a week and vows to catch the lunch bandit. Richard Laumer comes forward with knowledge of Edward Clifford's death. Laumer claims he is the biological son of Clifford and goes on to tell Bayliss that he thinks his father was murdered. Bayliss asks why he is so sure. Laumer replies, "I told him I would kill him." Laumer requests DNA evidence and autopsy results and gives the detectives a video. The video shows Morris Laumer leaving his will to the deceased Clifford. In the event that Clifford dies, Richard Laumer is the beneficiary of a large sum of money. The detectives are shocked as Richard Laumer has left a video showing possible motive implicating himself. Shiner later tells the detectives that the deceased Clifford had prostate cancer and was on steroids. Knowing cancer and steroids are a deadly combination, the detectives think someone is shooting him up. Munch is very paranoid that as there is an internal matter going on in the box and Gaffney didn't say hello to him, Munch starts to worry the VCR he purchased from Kellerman is hot, and after Brody tells Munch that 2 men confiscated his VCR, Munch confronts Kellerman. Kellerman claims he got the VCR from evidence control back in arson. An unnamed woman, along with Gaffney, asks for Bayliss and Pembleton's help tracking down Richard Laumer. She claims to be a friend of his. She also claims her name is Felicity Fenwick, which sounded like a fake name from the beginning. The detectives are very angered by this, claiming they're in the middle of an investigation. After Bayliss refuses, Gaffney claims insubordination. Kellerman is sitting and waiting for the lunch bandit after he rigs some irresistible ribs with ink. Later, with Kellerman gone, Brody reaches for the ribs just as Munch yells, "Brody, no!" Buster Simmons is waiting for Bayliss and Pembleton in the box. When they enter, he admits to killing Edward Clifford and pumping the cancer-ridden elderly man with steroids. That is the end of that recap. Doesn't actually mention that there's another scene at the end where Laumer comes into the bar. It gets the results of the DNA test, but then doesn't actually end up reading them. And Bayliss refuses to give him a drink, as they both, state their belief that he's the real murderer. But of course, they can't do anything about it because they have a confession from someone else. So, yeah, that's basically what happened in that episode. Now let's see if for the opening tagline of David B226 Morris's review is, "Did this episode really happen?" As Homicide was, despite the occasional flourishes of quirkiness, a very realistic drama. When the show began to depreciate in quality, particularly in the last season, was when it tried to be sensational. We have seen examples of this in episodes such as Thrill of the Kill and Sniper, but those episodes were at least straightforward. Map of the Heart misses stride because it overcomplicates things. This isn't bad. Murder can be complicated sometimes, but this level of complication comes when it elevates a run-of-the-mill murder into what seems to be a government plot. It doesn't start out that way. At first, it seems a routine call for Bayliss and Pembleton, a rich old lawyer dying of a heart attack in a swimming pool. Then a cartographer named Richard Laumer shows up at the squad room, says that the man was murdered, that he was his biological father, and then proceeds to give the detectives a videotape will, which provides a definite motive for Laumer to have killed this man. This is fairly convoluted stuff, but very soon things become positively Byzantine. A woman from the NSA appears in the squad with Captain Gaffney demanding information on the investigation and unilaterally telling Bayliss and Pembleton that Richard Laumer had nothing to do with the investigation and that continued pursuit might be detrimental to them. Tim and Frank, true to themselves, do not buckle under, but things become increasingly more complicated as the detectives get deeper into the investigation. Then the most unlikely thing to happen in real life happens on the show. A man comes off the street and confesses to the killing for no apparent reason. Frank are outraged but calm down because they realize that in this case their hands are tied. Oh, this seems a little extreme for a man who draws maps for the NSA. It seems unnecessarily complicated and over the top. The veiled threats, fake names, shadowy figures, clandestine meetings, and the constant sensation of manipulation seems like something that would be more suited to the X-Files than Homicide. It might make more sense if the case involved conspiracy theorist Munch, but Bayliss and Pembleton seem unlikely subjects for such a thing. The two have some very good moments in this episode, particularly in the last scene at the waterfront where the two detectives rail on Laumer, but mostly things seem out of their league. The episode should be credited for a well-shot scene at the Baltimore Aquarium, though it seems very unlikely it would be as empty as it was. The episode is not a total loss because of what's going on in the background with Munch, Kellerman, and Brody. Lewis isn't around because Clark Johnson is busy behind the camera. For the first time, we see the workout room in the squad and some funny scenes when Kellerman tries to teach Brody how to throw a punch, which leads to one of the funnier moments where Brody practices being a cop by using cliches that Homicide would never touch. Munch and Kellerman get involved in a long series of events over a stolen VCR that Mike has sold to John, which leads to a surreal, purposely badly shot scene where they have a conversation with shades of David Mamet that never happened over a topic they know nothing about. The most promising bit comes when Kellerman is victimized by the lunch bandit, someone who has been stealing the squad's lunches for 2 years without any detection. Kellerman gets so outraged by this that he makes it his personal mission to capture and unmask the culprit. It seems a little odd that a squad full of the best detectives in the city couldn't figure this out, but that seems more real than most of what's happening. Map of the Heart is something of a disappointment coming from James Yoshimura, one of Homicide's best writers. There are some amusing sequences and some good dramatic sequences, but they are outnumbered by the convolutions. Fortunately, the writers learn from their mistakes, and nothing of this level of confusion would be tried for quite some time. My score is 6. Okay, so that's his take. What do you think, Ben?
I'll give it a 9.
All right.
My take. Essentially, you have a situation where it looks like the father, the ostensible father, maybe not the real biological father, has set up a situation where he wants to try to entrap his son to kill this guy, otherwise he'd get the money. And we never actually told how much is in the trust fund. We don't know. It might just be $1. That's enough bait. And then you get.
Well, he did say it was his entire estate, which he probably knew that he had more than $1.
Right. Oh yes, I noticed something with the way Frank was written. Used 2 words which were unusual for him. And I think this was the first time this writer. So he used contusion for bruise, purloined, and then bamboo manicure. So some sort of form of torture.
I don't know. I suppose.
I mean, maybe it's like putting like bamboo up someone's nails or something.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, purloined. That's a good word. It's almost as if Robert Holmes was involved in this script by putting.
Well, Maybe Michael Whaley is along the same lines as Robert.
Yeah, because that's the sort of thing that Robert Holmes would have, a complicated plot with characters with a wide vocabulary.
Well, to me, the reason I still like this episode is to me that I don't think the plot itself was complicated. There's intrigue, implied because you don't know exactly what happened. There's sort of the obvious, but then you're not sure whether or not that's sort of a misdirection, and that this guy really isn't the killer, and he just doesn't care whether he looks like he is or not. It doesn't really make any difference to him either way, because he knows he's not going to be, punished for it. Which I kind of liked that aspect, that there would be someone who was in a position they were confident they weren't going to get punished for something they didn't do, so they weren't unnecessarily worried about it. But it brings you to, why did he bring them the videotape in the first place? Was he just trying to get those DNA results? But if that was the case, why did he not even look at them? So there's kind of those questions that are
that's the bit that's a bit of a plot hole. I mean, why he actually needs to go to the police anyway?
Well, and that's why, to me, there's that mystery aspect of what exactly is anybody's motive here. But I enjoy those kind of things. I don't mind ambiguity. And Morris kept saying convoluted, but to me, I don't really think it is that convoluted. You can make it that way if you start getting into all of these different factors. But as it was more misdirection than it was convolution. And having, cutting back to the scenes of Russert on the phone with the, trying to get into somebody from the NSA and just being constantly transferred and not getting anything and things like that. So a lot of it was pretty straightforward. It was done in a way where there was intrigue and there was mystery, but I don't think that it was convoluted in the sense you weren't expecting the audience to try to keep up with a bunch of different plot lines going in different directions, because it really wasn't. If you really look at it on paper, there wasn't a whole lot that really happened. It's just that it's left as a question. You don't really know what happened. And the kind of overall point, I guess, is that when you're dealing with something where you start involving government agencies, then you're going to get frustrated, which was actually a continuing theme of the Homicide book written by David Simon, as he says that the detectives and basically those directly in the Homicide squad are constantly coming up against red tape and interference from bosses and things where their agenda doesn't match the agenda of the people that are doing the real work, because they're more about politics and image, and they're having to go up against that all the time. So that was a recurring theme of the book, and you see a little bit of that here, where you have detectives that are trying to do their job and did their job and closed the case because somebody confessed to it, but they believe, have reason to believe that that confession may not be, right, but they don't really have any way or reason to pursue it. So,
yeah, and there is the plot point made that the ponytail guy, I mean, his prison sentence is 3 to 5 years, and he probably will be well taken care of.
Yeah, because to me, what I got out of it is the most likely scenario is that the son hired that guy to do it. He's like got him to shoot him up with steroids to slowly kill him so that he would be dead before that deadline. I mean, that seems to be the most reasonable assumption, but obviously they leave it ambiguous as to whether that's actually what happened or not.
Yeah. The only thing is with the tape. Now, if he was written as more of like a cocky character, maybe you could say he's doing it to like taunt them. But you see, would be more of a choice of the actor playing the character. I mean, it's not one of those. It's not like a plot hole where it's like this is impossible. It's just something that's left unexplained or whole.
Right, because if you look at it and you say, okay, well, what if he hadn't brought them the videotape? Then how would their investigation have been different? It really wouldn't have. If you look at, because basically the only difference is if the guy who confessed still came forward, then all that part would have been exactly the same. The only thing that would have been different is that the conversations they had with Lahmer and with Felicity Fenwick. That was really the only thing that changed based on him bringing them the tape.
Ah, so maybe, do you think I think they said something that it was in order to bring her in, maybe.
Yeah.
But by getting himself arrested or questioned.
Yeah, there was obviously an ulterior motive there. We just still don't know what it is. We're not informed as to what it is that he was trying to do behind the scenes.
I think what the writer did well is that he's left it with these open questions that gives people enough to so he tied up enough loose ends but left questions open, and so this would be an episode that was definitely has a rewatch value. And you can imagine if most of the episode of Homicide were like this, or more of them had these, there'd be like more talking points for things. But it'd probably be like a smaller audience that may not have lasted, but those that did like it would like talk about these little things all the while.
Which is why I said that I thought this one might appeal more to intuitive types, because you were often saying on Blake 7 that you liked, the ideas introduced, and this one does more. There's more about the ideas than there is the actual, actions that take place. And there's definitely room for conspiracy theorists to have an avenue of going off about it. Though it, like Morris mentioned, it's interesting that it didn't really involve Munch in that way, because he was more worried about the VCR and what was something coming down on him because of that.
Excellent. Right. The only thing that I was getting, even though it's not real, I sort of lived through the character of Calaman when he was talking about somebody stealing his lunch. And I was thinking about what I would do in that situation, and I would have put something in the lunch. Like I wouldn't have put the exploding thing in. I would have put something nasty in it.
Well, like a laxative or something?
Yeah, laxative and loads of chili peppers and stuff.
Yeah. So did you take any pictures from this one? Because I haven't seen you put any.
Oh, yeah. I've been a bit... I'll just let me... Yeah, someone sent me a message. I'm just going to say, in a hangout with Jeff. Back with you soon. Alright, here we go. Right, there we go. Sent that. Then I'm going to put this on. It's probably been hearing these pings in the background from this. So there's the. You may have got an extra year just for the ponytail. Right. So this was from. This is a slight digression for half a minute. So this is Red Dwarf, and as you can see, this actor not put any weight on. This actor playing the robot just a little bit. Right, here we go. Right, so yes, quite wealthy. You have a grand piano near the pool, as you do. Actually, I don't know how near that was. So here we go, Jeff. Does this name? I'll just go through these names, and you can stop me when these names stick out to you. Terry, can you ring a bell?
Nope.
Well, he rings a bell.
Max Perlich has his name under his face.
Yes, that's why he rings that bell. All right.
Then the next two are regulars. Walt McPherson is who plays Gaffney,
Right. Yeah.
Harlan McBride is Dr. Dyer.
Yeah. And I've got that bit now. And then Walt Whitfield, I remember that. I'll try and remember that in the future. Right. Right. Yeah, I noticed the difference in style. Like Frank was written, and also, yeah, Frank was written as not necessarily as smarter, but his smarts were emphasized. You know, like when he was like quoting Thomas Aquinas and things like that. And I just thought that Frank was written as more. His education was emphasized. Like I said, the word choices, like contusion, purloined. He knew the word cartographer.
Hey, I even knew that word.
Well, you have got quite a wide vocabulary, Jeff.
Because that was something I actually considered as a profession myself when I was younger. My father actually suggested it to me because when I was a kid, I was so into maps of, especially roads and stuff. So he kind of said that that was a career I could go into, would be a cartographer.
Well, perhaps if he wasn't so evil, he might have followed his advice.
I don't really think it had that much to do with that. My own lack of ambition more than anything. But yes, directed by Clark Johnson. So Lewis got the week off.
Probably the weakest thing in here was this actress's kicks on the bag. She didn't get very high with the kicks, and so she didn't get much higher than me, and I had like a leg flexibility problem. She didn't get that high, so but not bad. There's some good Shiner moments in this, I thought.
Yeah.
Imagine Shiner naked. I heard that.
His envy over the old man who's in better shape than he is.
Yeah, and he could have said, like, imagine him there, and then one of the other guys could have said, I'd rather not. Alright, there we go. And again, good laying dead acting from this guy. Good laying dead acting. Unlike David Jackson. Very good corpse acting. Yeah, I was not knowing what to use as the thumbnail.
There's a possibility right there. That's in the room.
Oh yeah. Well, that's why I took the grab. You never know me. It might just be this, but probably not.
Of the high-end VCR.
Yeah. Now these things here that they're working on. I wonder if this is like some kind of notation that they're actually taught in detective school. I think is that Harley McBride?
Yep.
Then we've got I might just use something like this as the thumbnail, but I'll put
Felicity Fenwick.
Yeah. Oh, is that the waterfront bar? Or is that? It's very big if it is, but maybe this bit's the bar and that's something else. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think because the bars are right across the street from the cops building. So
why was this image put in?
It's just for scenery, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Oh, because it's the aquarium. That's where it is.
Ah, right, okay. So, I mean, this was quite a good idea to have this where you had that long talky scene in. So it was a good idea to shoot there. So they sort of switched roles, haven't they? They sort of decided to get the more glamorous actress as a detective, and just like have a switched around with Howard.
Mm-hmm.
All right, shell suit. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so this is. I don't know if they call them shell suits in the United States. Do they call them shell suits?
You don't remember our entire conversation about that from back in Homicide Season 2 reviews? Or maybe Season 1? I can't remember when that...
I can't remember. Did they actually call them shell
There's
suits?
a callback, folks, go back to the episode A Dog and Pony Show, I believe, where you have Pony Johnson wearing one of those. Generally, they call them windbreakers, I think. That's usually what I've heard for that kind of jacket.
Yeah, it's very
1990s. Sports coaches wore them a lot and things like that. So this guy was a swimming coach guy, so it was natural for him to be wearing it. Yeah. One thing I took note of, because when you showed the board, I was reminded that in the last episode, Bayliss had talked about there was a case he had to solve before he would leave. But what I don't remember if that was actually Galeno or whether there was somebody else. But I noticed that there weren't any names in red under Bayliss, at least not in that. You know, if there are, they're above the ones that are on there.
Ooh.
So.
Yeah, that's one thing that could have been a little bit improved was the stuff with the dialogue with Perlick. I've forgotten the name of the character.
Brody.
It was okay, but that could have been amped up a little bit.
I thought it was funny. I mean, it was just sort of in there for humor. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit. Yeah, as I said, okay. Just a little bit.
And it made me hungry. I wanted to have those ribs, too.
Yeah.
Homicide frequently does that, actually. They mention all these real places in Baltimore that are famous for all these great foods, like the crab cakes and the steak that are mentioned in this episode, and then the ribs. And like, there's several other places mentioned by Kellerman about places he went to get food. And of course, we had the previous episode with Bayliss bringing people donuts and pastries from the one place.
Well, they were probably making it there. Well, they were making it there, so they want free stuff. So
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It makes me want to go back to Baltimore, which I haven't been since I was 5 years old, and try these places.
Right. So, is this actor alive, Ralph Tabakin?
I can't remember. I'd have to look that up.
Maybe quite old if he was alive.
Yeah.
90s probably.
Yeah, I think he might have died, but I don't remember. I think he died in 2001.
Wow.
And died at the age of 80 because he was born in 79. I guess he didn't quite make it to his 80th birthday, but 21 to 2001.
All right. That does amuse me. Right. It just reminds me of what happened with Michael Kilgareth. That was weird. Oh, you've not seen that yet, Jeff, have you? Attack of the Cybermen.
If I did, it was when I was a kid, so I really don't remember it very well. Right. But I will see it at some point.
Yeah, so what they did was John Nathan Turner decided to get the original the original actor that played the cyber controller in the Tomb of the Cybermen, Michael Kilgareth. But when they got him, he got the same actor back to play him in 1984. It was a little bit larger. And so what they did is they called the cyber controller, the fans called him the Fat Controller because of the character in Thomas the Tank Engine. And I had no idea for ages that Thomas the Tank Engine had become huge in the United States. Right. I don't think I've got anything else to say about this episode except that I liked it. And that, yes, at times it was complex, but you know, it had, like I said, it has an arc where it has a story which is relatively, it is straightforward enough, and then beyond that there are these complexities, but there is that level that is like, can understand it. And there would be some scenes where someone would rewind to like concentrate. So yeah, they've got good rewatch value.
Yeah, that's what I said. The plot itself is not that complicated, but it introduces things that could be complicated if you pursued them in your thought process. The main theme of the episode, though, seems to just be, the frustration with dealing with situations that you don't really know and can't do anything about.
Oh yeah, we should have mentioned some more on the air. I thought the guest characters were good. The guest thespians.
Yeah, and I thought the guy who played Lawmer, again, a good example of the casting on Homicide, because that part could have easily been someone who brought the episode down by being too like, oh, I'm Mr. Secret Spy guy, and he wasn't that way at all. He was very understated, which worked perfectly for the character.
Yeah,
because it got across that he wasn't worried about being prosecuted for murder at all, and so he wouldn't be trying to be like, Mr. Smooth in that situation. He was just like, here's the facts, deal with it. And I thought he got a chance to shine in that last scene in the bar, and that one where he's like, asking for the bourbon and they won't give it to him, and then he's like, anything you have, I'll take anything at this point.
Yeah, I mean, a lesser actor would have milked that a bit more.
Yeah, I think it was just the right amount of agitation, and kudos to Clark Johnson in his directorial debut for resisting the urge to having him be too over the top.
Yeah, because usually directors who are also have been an actor or actress, usually they are quite good at directing them.
Yeah, well, you know when you're in that situation that it's likely that with the regular actors, he's going to have good camaraderie with them because he works with them all the time. So it's only a matter of, how things will be with the guest actors. So
yeah, and plus, if you got a good casting director, you don't really need to do much in that area.
Yeah,
the problem is when you're a director and you've got people in that you've not chosen, and you have to make the best of a bad job.
Right.
That's when directors can really earn their corn.
Yep.
When they have.
Sometimes, by virtue of seeing some of those behind-the-scenes production notes about Doctor Who shows, see that some of the best Doctor Who directors, the way they got around that was they simply kept cutting down the scenes of that actor. They would basically snip them slowly out of the show until they were barely involved. There were a few that did that, so that was kind of amusing.
Yeah.
Sorry, we have to cut for time, so all of a sudden you're down to one scene.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were talking to me. Because
no. Yeah, although that's also true.
Yes,
because I got the football game I want to see. But I give this episode an 8 out of 10. Join us next time for a very different toned episode called Requiem for Adina.
Oh, another callback for Adina Watson. Okay.
Yes.
Bye from me, folks.
Featuring a guest appearance by Chris Rock, though, so stay tuned for that.
Ooh. Right.
Bye.
Bye, folks. I'm going to end this now.